Well, hello everyone, and welcome to a tutorial on JMRI. This is another one. This one, actually, I decided to do just a short tutorial on setting up a double slip switch. I had to go through quite a bit of challenge to kind of figure this out. I actually finally reached out to Bob Bucklew, shot him an email, said, "Bob, how do I set this up?" And Bob had never set it up, but he did send me to the JMRI webpage, the page in particular that talked about this. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do a video on this because it's really not that complicated once you learn how to do it. So this is just clicking on JMRI Panel Pro. Now this computer is not hooked up to the layout. It's just simply a dummy version of JMRI, so that I use this to practice a lot of different ideas that I work with, experiment with my logic and different things to see if it's going to work. So in this case, I have a panel already set up for this video. So I'm going to open this up, and it's going to start up. Okay, so what we've got here is just a basic panel here. And if because it's not hooked up to the railroad, and so it's not hooked up to any decoders, there's no feedback. But also, if you use any of the products out there that don't have feedback, this is what you would get when the layout first starts up. So you'd have this question responding, "Hey, I don't know where I'm at, where I'm supposed to be doing." So what you do is you would set it up, and of course then now it knows exactly where it's at. And you can see it flips back and forth. So basically, when you go to set this up, my suggestion is to set up I use servos, I use Tam Valley, but you can use anybody else's decoders, it doesn't matter. And I'm using a Fast Track's double slip switch. And a double slip switch is just basically two switches that are actually overlapping one another. So I'm going to set this up. So it's basically set up like that, so that you can see when you flip one switch, see, you would be going to that position, or the fourth position being this one. Now, what I've got here is what I would do is I would take my layout, my servos, and I would set them up, and I would take and pull these graphics up. And you've seen how to do a turnout, real simple, and so you just simply do this. And I would just experiment to make sure that my turnouts are set in the correct position and are flipping in the right position. Now I happen to know that these turnouts are reversed mainly because I pulled two right turnouts instead of a left and right. But it doesn't matter. It's going to work for this demonstration here. So this is actually my JMRI panel and what I would have. This would be my main line moving across here. I have a branch line that goes off of here, and this would be my entering into my yard. And this is actually my double slip switch, and it's a diamond, and it looks nice, but you know, if I flip this back and forth, there is no way that my dispatcher can tell what position the track's in. So what I'm going to try and do is create a graphic image that makes it really easy for him to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, I'm going to add an item, and I'm going to go down here and add a slip switch, three-way slip, and scissor switch. So I'm going to click on that, and this is going to pop up. Now the reason why I want to set this up ahead of time is because this section right here comes from, if you've worked with JMRI often enough, you know if you go to Tools, you go to Tables, you go to Turnouts, this is the turnout table. These are, as I add turnouts onto the layout, I actually would add them. I can use names, and I can operate them. And I can actually sit here and click this from close to open and see that it's functioning. And I would do the same thing. I would match it up and work from there. So that table, when you open this up, once it's been set up and you've added that table is going to show up right in here. And if you have lots of switches, you'll be able to slip it up and down until you find the turnouts that you need. I have over 33 set up into JMR right now, so I have quite a list on my main layout. But for our demonstration, this will work right here. Now, I want to point out a couple different things here. Up at the top, you have a choice of double slip switch, single slip switch, three-way turnout, and a scissor switch. I'm not going to go through each one of them. And by the way, the scissor switch, you have the 2 turnout version and the 4 turnout version. It doesn't matter. What you see here are these questions of what turnouts are what turnouts and how this all gets set up. So I'm going to go back to the 3-way is the same way. The single slip does the same thing, and the double slip does the same situation. Just the difference between these is you can see with the double slip you have 6 options, and in the single slip you have only 5 options. Of course, in the 3-way turnout you have 5 options, and in the scissor you have 2 options basic, or 5 options you got, and if you go to the 4-way, still you really are only going to deal with 5 options. So again, going back to the double slip switch. So what I need to do is I need to define my east turnout and my west turnout. Well, this is my layout right here. This is my eastern turnout, and if I hover over it, I see it's IT2. If you've set this up in the panel, you simply left click IT2 and you hold it and drag it up to the east turnout. And now you can see it's got in here whatever one, which is IT2, is already there. The same for this one. I hover over this and I see that it is IT3. So I grab this, left click, drag it up there, and now this add to panel is highlighted. I could add this to the panel, except that these icons don't match the style I'm using. So I want to change them. I go to change icon, and if you've worked in JMRI, you've seen this often enough. You can go down here, and I'm using the USS track icons here, and I hit track. Oops, sliding it down here, and I can do turnouts. Now the first time I did this, I had a real hard time finding these because I couldn't find a slip switch in here. I was like, well, it's not a diamond. A diamond to me is, one direction, one way or the other. We'll get to that in a minute. But if you go to the left turnouts, you can see right down to here you get a slip switch. And if you click into here, you can see you get a double, an east, and a west. I'm going to darken these up so you can see them. Well, these are fine. You have the closed, which doesn't really tell me which direction it's in. I have a thrown here, and I have an air and an unknown. Well, that's really only 5 positions. And so I thought, well, okay, this is more for the single slip switch, and I have a double. Even though it says double, it didn't really seem to work very well for me. And I looked it through all this here, and I couldn't find it until I went up into diamond, and I happened to go in there, and I hit a left or a right. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go to darken these up. These look much more consistent to what I want to do. So I'm going to take here the left, and what I want is I want to match these diagrams here to the diagrams up above. So this first one looks like you're shifting from the top to the main line. So I'm going to look for the one here that goes from the top to the main line, and I'm going to slide that into that position. And this is then from the main line to the bottom. And so I'm going to slide this one into place. Then this one goes straight through. That looks like this one here. And this is the from the top to the bottom, just like that. So I'm going to grab that, slide it into there. Now let's get into unknowns. Remember when it started up, it didn't know what position's at. So if you don't have feedback when you first start up, or it can't communicate to the decoder card, you want to know that it's unknown. So I'm going to put that into there. And the inconsistent, some people will see it, some people won't. On my servos, I turn them really slow. They move from the left to the right, from the thrown or the closed position, kind of slow. And when they're in between those two positions, I get an inconsistent label. And that helps my dispatcher know exactly what it is. And now I can add this to the panel. So I'll click on Add to Panel, and there's my turnout. I'm going to minimize this here. Now watch when I click these turnouts. By the way, both these turnouts will kind of match, although I happen to know this one's going to be reversed. So there's the bottom. There's going straight through. They're shifting to the top. And there's straight through the main line. Now, what you need to do is you need to go and visually look at the layout to make sure that this diagram here matches exactly what the double slip switch is doing. Once you've got it doing that, and you can change the icons, flip them around, whatever you have to do to make it work. Once you can do that, you simply take, I'm going to remove the non-graphic out, and I'm going to slide this one right into place. And if I'm not happy with it, I'm going to edit the location here just a bit. Oop, grab it here, move it off to the side. And I'm just going to adjust it until I get it fairly well lined up. Well, it seems to look good. Okay. And now my dispatcher can tell exactly what position that turnout is in, so he can operate the trains without a problem. And that's how you set up a double slip switch. So I hope that's helpful. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop me a line. I'll help walk you through what I can. And until next time, happy modeling.